by Wes Penry. February 10, 2013 from Wes Penry website, Spanish version I. Some major channeled sources. We have no proof if there are more channelers today than it was a few hundred or 1,000 years ago, because in the past there was no internet, and information coming from channelers were most likely being considered witchcraft by the mainstream religion and heavily suppressed. So we can assume that many psychics kept quiet if they made contact. Still, we can also assume that the phenomenon is more widespread now than it was in the past, because if the channeler didn't claim that the source was from angels or whatever god or gods that were worshipped at the time, the world never got to know about it. Also, the sources make contact because they want their message to become known, and not just for the material to stay between them and a few people. At least that is mostly the case. Also, we've noticed that since the RA material came out, the amount of channelers have skyrocketed, a true sign of the end times. If you ask a channeler what the difference is between their particular source and other sources out there, most, if not all of them, will tell you a lot of things that are different and why they have chosen to work with their particular entity or social memory complex, DEF. Evidence show, however, that most of them seem to have a common goal, and it looks like they just use different angles to address the same issue in order to attract a different kind of audience. Similar to an advertisement firm which puts a certain touch to an ad in order to reach a certain public. Some can take quite drastic measures trying to make people pay attention. The thing most of the channeling have in common besides the harvest is that they say that they are us in the future. But are these sources benevolent, or are they wolves in sheep's clothing? It is a very complex subject, much more complex than one would think, and it's not black or white. Whether humankind will gain from our connection with them in the long run or not remains to be seen, but after have studied quite a few of them, it looks like they are here to make amends to us for one reason or another, or at least that's what they want us to believe. It's interesting, though, that they contact us now when we are in the middle of taking a giant step in our evolution. Albeit there may be reasons for this. As humans once again become more psychic, many people are more prone to tuning into the vibrations of these entities, when they perhaps may have wanted to get in touch with us much sooner if they could have. The internet has certainly been a blessing in disguise in this regard. Whatever we think about them, it's hard not to acknowledge that they are giving us information we would not have been able to find anywhere else at this point in time, and evolution would have been slower. The fact is that we as a species have been isolated from the rest of the universe for so long that now, when the grid is about to fall apart and perhaps the quarantine is being lifted, a lot of things are bound to happen simultaneously, from our perspective. The ability for channeled sources to get their message heard is one thing. Then we have star beings who can more easily come here and incarnate in order to either help or destroy. The major part of the Syrian alliance, who previously had a hard time breaking through the quarantine, can now enter via stargates, almost exclusively in spiritual form. In the meantime, and because of the above, the chaos is increasing and so is the confusion, both amongst common people and in the realm of power. The PTB can't get away with things they used to, because many humans can see through the lies, and some of people in authority are being thrown to the wolves, having their dirty laundry being hung out in public. While all this happens, the channeled sources are playing an important role in these times, for good or for bad, or both. I will present this subject from my point of view, and the reader can decide for themselves. I ended the previous paper, In Wait for Things to Come, with discussing one of the most popular and well-received channeled material of our time, the RA material. We are going to continue now and discuss some other channeled entities, from here on called sources most of the time, with a similar view as that of RA. We are also going to see that they are actually working together on a common goal, to oversee the harvest of souls. And the souls we are talking about is, of course, the human souls. I believe the Cassiopeians are those who come closest to the RA cosmology, something they themselves have no problem admitting, although there are some differences too, of course. Another source who claims connection with RA is the Elohim. This is what they call themselves. The Elohim are channeled by two women, Daphne Karandanis and Terry Brown. A third person, who is asking the questions, makes it a trio, and his name is Winfrey, a former musician. Mind you that the group which channeled the RA material were also a trio, although the setup for the RA sessions was different, with only one channeler, Carla Ruckert. Before I go too deeply into this, I want to mention to the reader that I do not have any solid proof who these sources really are, and although there are those who are obviously malevolent, it's not always so, and there are also those whom you can tell are here to help, even when they have their own agenda. My intention is not to talk badly about certain groups and praise others. I will give you some information and sometimes draw a few conclusions, but the final conclusion must be yours. I will connect some dots, and you will decide whether I do a good job or if a lot more needs to be said about this. Personally, I have come to some conclusions that make sense to me, but if it shows that I am incorrect regarding some groups, I will address that later in the light of more information. Also, I want to make clear that I am not attacking the person or the group who channel these sources, as I think most of them have good intentions, but when it comes to the sources themselves, they may not always be whom they present themselves to be.
This Elohim channel opened themselves up to the above group back in 2002, when Winfrey and his fiancée, Daphne Karandanis, drove up from California towards Oregon. When they reached Mount Shasta in Northern California, a voice began to talk through Daphne. Wynn started asking some questions and the voice answered. This was the beginning of their now 12 years plus contact with the Elohim. Interestingly enough, Mount Shasta is known for its paranormal activities, UFO sightings and underground facilities, and there is also a Stargate located in the area.
The reader can see the details about how it all started and much more in Wynn's ebook, The Creator Gods of the Physical Universe Want to Talk to You, and later on, Terry came into the picture as well, also being able to channel this same group of entities. In Wynn's case, it's easy to understand at least one reason for his loyalty to the Elohim, which is that they apparently saved the life of his sister, who was terminally ill. She is now fully recovered, from what I understand. There is no way such an incident wouldn't affect you. All he did, he says, was to ask them for help, and they responded. Still, Wynn is telling us that he was very skeptic about them for a long time, and it took quite a while, and some serious research to establish in his own mind that they are benevolent. He suggests everybody else does the same. Wynn says that the Elohim can be of assistance to mankind in 3 ways. They can inform us in such a way that we can dispel our fears. They penetrate this reality with love-light energy, which can uplift the vibration here. They can intervene, such as with healing, but only within the guidelines of free will. They would never help somebody if it harms someone else. The Bible talks about the Elohim being synonymous with God himself, in spite the fact that Elohim is plural, of El. Others, like Wynn's group, say they are the creator gods, plural, of this whole physical universe, while some, like Zechariah Sitchin, tell us that the Elohim are synonymous with the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. My own research has shown that the Anunnaki is a term being used for the gods who invaded Earth 500,000 years ago, but is basically a term originating from Orion, most possibly brought down here by Enki, the head of the faction of Syrians, the fallen angels, who arrived here 500,000 years ago. However, these gods who arrived here and started manipulating the DNA in existing humans and apes were a mix of Syrians, Pleiadians, Alpha Draconians, vegans, and a few other star races. I gave the name the Syrian Alliance to this group of star beings. So if we are to believe Sitchin's translation of who the Elohim are, they are the Syrian Alliance. But if we go with the claim that the Elohim are actually the creators of the physical universe, like Wynn and his group say, then we still have to ask ourselves, which physical universe? The 4% or the 96%? If they are talking about the 4%, the universe we perceive with our 5 senses, then we are still coming back to that they are the Syrian Alliance. Only if they are talking about the physical universe before the Syrian overlords tampered with our DNA, and they were working directly with the Mother Goddess, can we consider this Elohim group being benevolent, if they are truthful, that is. So let's see who they are, what their cosmology is, what their intentions are by contacting this group of humans, and what the effects are from the channeling. Also, let us take a look at whom they are in cahoots with. They do mention, however, that they consider themselves being more feminine than masculine due to their creative abilities. Let's start with their cosmology. Like almost all channeled sources, they say there is one creator, which is all that is, and we are smaller portions of that one creator, here to have experiences, so that the creator can have experiences outside of himself. Creation consists of a central universe, and from that, 5 other universes expand, while a 6th universe is being formed as we speak. Interestingly enough, that corresponds with the 7 super-universes in the Urantia book and in the Wingmaker's cosmology, and is also in line with LPGC's 7 superdomains, although the latter are constructed slightly differently. Moreover, they are very much in contact with RA and share their cosmology to a very large degree. Therefore, they say, just like RA, that we are at the end of a 75,000 years cycle, and that we are at the point where some people, who are 51% STO, deaf, will be harvested, and RA and the Elohim, together with other star beings, such as Carla Ruckert's new group, the QWO, are here to help in the process. In fact, although RA said that they would never speak through a medium here on Earth again if Carla Ruckert's group will dissolve, which it did when Dr. Don Elkins, the questioner of the Raw sessions, committed suicide. Because no one else could hold their energy, RA is back, and apparently channeled through metaphysical researcher David Wilcock. Carla Ruckert, who is friends with Wynn's group, says she thinks Wilcock's source is indeed RA, but a lower vibration of the same collective Carla channeled in the 1980s. If this is true, Wilcock is apparently strong enough to hold their energy. Like I said in the beginning, the Elohim claim to be the creators of the entire universe. The original creator gods I was talking about both in level 1 and 2, the so-called builders. They are from the 6th dimensional ray of light and love, and now they are coming to Earth to partake in what they say is a very important event, the ascension to the 4th density Earth. We get the feeling it's their responsibility to come back and check in on their creation. Note, however, that they are not saying, from what I know, that they created mankind in particular, but they created a universe for mankind to be created and develop in. They also say that 2012 and the Mayan calendar, and prophecy in general, has a lot to do with why they are here now. It's all connected to the harvest and the end of a major cycle. Wynn says in his book, "The creator gods of this universe want to talk to you," Pi 26, that Ptah is a high individual soul, who made himself known to Wynn and Daphne, although he happens to be a member of the RA group. So, curiously enough, we now have the terms RA and Ptah. Ptah was the Egyptian name for Enki as the first pharaoh of Egypt, and Marduk, Enki's son, is also known as Amon Ra, the hidden Ra. This name issue, Ptah and Ra, has been addressed at times with the RA group, who denies any connections with the Egyptian deities. Oh well, coincidences then? I just find it peculiar that both Enki and his son, Ra, are presented, name-wise, in the RA group, and Ptah is channeled by Daphne side by side with the Elohim group. Elohim also relating to the Syrians, just like Ra Marduk and Ptah Enki. Why so many coincidences and still they deny them all? Anyway, the difference between the RA group and Elohim is that the RA collective are graduates from the 7-density realm, while Elohim exists outside of time. RA have incarnated here in this physical universe, while the Elohim have not. The Elohim have entered this reality out of curiosity to see how it is to live in 3D, but they have never incarnated. Some of them have never even left their realm outside time in order to stay pure and not be affected by the realms below. To understand what it means to live outside of time, the Elohim explain it like this. If something lives outside of yourself, you must add time to the factor as a reference point of before and after. No reference point, no time. If it's true what they say, it makes me think they live in the KHA deaf, but what they are describing is the 4% universe and its dimensions and densities. Without putting any judgment on Elohim at this point, it's necessary to say that not all beings or star races living in the KHAA are benevolent, loving beings. The Orion Empire is the higher realms of the KHAA, but the KHAA has its own dimensions and densities as well. So please be advised that the harvest spoken about is addressing the levels of reality in the 4% universe, and not in the KHAA. Not once has any of these sources, except the Pleiadians what I know of, even mentioned the real universe, the 96%, although they simply address it as the invisible universe. Invisible to our five senses, that is.
The Elohim are allegedly transmitting great portions of love and light, at least according to many of those who attend the sessions. They also say they love us tremendously and think very high of human beings. We are very special, according to them. Although, sometimes a less loving thought pattern is revealing itself to us. In Win's ebook, page 90, Win is asking the Elohim what it is that limits a normal 3D being from operating outside 3D rules. And the Elohim replies, the normal fog-dense brain. Win then asks if that is how they talk about humans when we're not around. And they respond, it is a product of our frustration when working with your realm. One would expect a huge amount of love, and understanding in particular, from beings who say they are the highest of highest on the universal scale and after all have created it. But their response here clearly shows that they don't look upon us that highly after all. I am a being, still being stuck here in 3D, working hard to work myself out of the trap. I am communicating with my fellow 3D beings every day, beings who don't know anything about what's going on, and I don't feel frustration anymore. If I don't feel frustration when dealing with our 3D issues, although I'm just a 3D being, why would they, who apparently are supposed to feel infinite, unconditional love? I may sound picky, but sometimes it's in the small details you eventually can start seeing the bigger picture. It's very important not to trust a source only because they transmit large portions of love and light. It's easy for them to transmit those energies by using technology and by using positive universal energies against us. All they need is to know how to do it. For them, it's kids' stuff. Because RA have experienced our realm, they have more knowledge how to overcome obstacles here than Elohim have, but Elohim are more angelic and can perform miracles. They actually say they can beam love, light energies into this realm, although they are mentioning this in a positive context. They are often working together with RA to liberate the Earth realm.
In both Level 1 and Level 2, I discussed something I call the wave of the supernova, which supposedly is a wave of energy heading towards Earth in faster than light speed. Some people fear this wave, while others believe it's going to raise our consciousness, either to become truly multi-D or enough to once and for all ascend to density 4, those who are ready for it, that is. Like I said at the time, this is an event that could happen around 2012, or it could happen later. We are still waiting, but by looking into the channeled sources a little bit extra, like I have done since then, a certain pattern starts to unfold, and it has to do with the harvest. Not only do a certain amount of sources suggest they are here to help us with the harvest from the 3rd to the 4th density, but they also tell us that they are all riding the wave. And this wave is approaching Earth in super high speed. They say that the wave is the direct cause to our ascension. I found this a little peculiar and looked into it some more. The result of my research will be revealed in a couple of papers from now. Elohim Re Kuo, the Cassiopeians, the Alpha Draconians, according to themselves, as we shall see, are all wave riders. Let's continue with 3 channeled sessions, so the reader gets the feel for them. In the first one, Winfrey is the first talker, and beside him is Terry Brown, who will start channeling a few seconds into the video. In the second and third videos, we hear Daphne Karandanis channeling the same entities, Multimedia 1, M1, Terry Brown channeling the Elohim Multimedia 2, M2, Daphne Karandanis channeling the Elohim Multimedia 3, M3, Daphne Karandanis channeling the Elohim. These videos are merely short examples of all the channeled sessions by Elohim, of course, and are perhaps not even directly representative for them. I simply picked them more or less at random on YouTube. I also wanted the reader to hear both Terry and Daphne channel. I advise the reader to go to YouTube and listen to more sessions to get a broader picture of this channel. I have talked to Win some, and what he repeatedly says is that those who are either attending the conference calls or are sitting in the live audience often feel an increase in energy, a feeling of happiness and joy. an overall uplifting experience from being in the energies of these beings. Also, by reading transcripts, many people can feel a similar thing, because the energies are put into the words in the transcripts. I am not going to comment on how people feel when they listen to Elohim, however, that's a very personal experience. There are a few comments I would like to make on the Elohim channeling above, though. First thing, they give a rather vague answer to Wynn's question in M2 above, circa 4:45 into the video, whether Elohim has anything to do with being part of the Elohim of the Bible. They reply that they are connected to some degree or another. We know that the Elohim of the Bible are the Syrian overlords, or whom the RA Social Memory Complex, SMC, calls the Orion Group. But we never get a straight answer what part they had in the whole Syrian Orion escapade. I would probably have left it with that if it wasn't because there is more. Approximately 2 minutes and 45 seconds into M2, Elohim say that they are the Council of An, which is a division of the Council of Elohim. The Council of Elohim in their turn answer to the Council of 12. Where have we heard that term before? The reader may not remember offhand, but I talked a lot about the Council of 12 in Level 1, particularly in PFC paper number 1 of May 5, 2011. The Marduk issue and the Earthbound Anunnaki. The Council of 12 is the Council of the Earthbound Anunnaki, the Syrian Alliance, led by Marduk, who is in alliance with his father, Lord Enki, something we will discuss in a later paper. In fact, the friction between the Earthbound Syrians and the incoming, as described in Level 1, seems to just be a show for the masses. I believe that scenario was just one of many distractions put into play so that the incoming forces, who are not physical but interdimensional, could invade silently without being exposed. I believe Utu Shamash, when he contacted me, had the same intention to distract me from the real issue, knowing I would do everything in my power to get the truth out there. So now we have the name Elohim, Ra, Ta, and we have the Council of An. We all know who An or Anu is in this whole scenario, the King of Kings of the Anunnaki Syrians, and the Council of 12. These are all indicators that this Elohim group that Daphne and Terry channel have a Syrian connection. Are these just coincidences? Why would these channeled sources use all these Syrian names and terms if there wasn't a connection? It's up to each and every one to feel the Elohim out. I have listened to them, and I have read Wynn's free ebook, but must say that I do not feel those high love and light frequencies those people talk about, and overall, I wasn't too impressed. Wynn has strongly suggested to me that I read his book, The Reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, which basically supposedly shows evidence that David Wilcock is a reincarnation of Cayce, the famous sleeping prophet. Wynn tells me that people have a tendency to look like their previous incarnations, and I agree that there is a stunning resemblance between Cayce and Wilcock. Apparently, there is more than just a facial expression, but I must confess I haven't read the book yet. If what he's saying is true, I still don't find it interesting enough, unless Wilcock starts creating astounding prophecies that come true. More people have been famous in their past lives. If I were Aristotle in a past life, and I'm sure I wasn't, I would raise my eyebrow. But that's about how interesting that is. Another lifetime, another experience. Still, I understand and respect those who want to know such things, so it's seriously just a personal take on it. I would never go in regression therapy to find out who I was a few hundred years ago. But for those who are interested, Wynn's book may be something to look into. You can see the similarities in Fig. 3 above. After all, I have stressed in my previous papers that during the time around the nanosecond, old souls who have reincarnated here before will show up again, souls such as Tesla, perhaps. These geniuses don't want to miss out on these times. Cayce could of course be one of them. In this paper, I want to introduce a few sources who have the same cosmic view and who say they are here for the same purpose, the harvest. I want the reader to be aware of them and their view on cosmos and on we humans, because it becomes relevant when we go into the Galactic Federations in an upcoming paper, and Phase 2 in the alien invasion, which is not fantasy or something I made up. I can guarantee you that what I am about to present in a few papers ahead comes directly from the horse's mouth. Not many people know about this. So let us continue with a few more things about Elohim and the RA group, and let's look at a few answers they gave to questions they were asked. Through these answers, it's easier for us to know them better.